I've been doing graphic design ever since I was 16 years old in high school. I'm 27 now, so over the years I've made a ton of work, good, bad, and everything in between. And in this video, I want to share with you some of my favorite designs from each year of my career. This video should give you some insight on how you can grow your style and skills over the years and prove that everyone really has to start somewhere. You'll see, my early designs were absolutely awful, so let's get into it. So here we go, my favorite design projects from 2014 to 2025. It's actually crazy to say that number out loud. I can't believe I'm doing design in some sense since 2014. My biggest project by far as a 16-year-old in 2014 was this clothing company I made in high school called Depravity. This was the logo and the back of a t-shirt that we shot of one of our friends just in our local spot in San Dimas. The first ever design that I got screen printed and created was this Depravity mask tee. Definitely very angsty and something that I was like anarchy-esque type, like really angsty teenage kind of punk rock ethos, but into like a streetwear brand. But I remember this gas mask image I got from a old picture of like someone in World War II or something. So yeah, here was the logo. I really think the type is kind of awful, and it was some font I'm pretty sure I got on DeFont and just wrote out, but I would slap my stickers everywhere across school, at the park. We made shirts, and I also did had a little website. Look at this. I was selling shirts for $10, $12. I even did some tie dyeing onto the white shirts, and these were like custom. I'd sell them for like a premium, like $15 or something. But this was really cool and giving me confidence as an entrepreneur and as well as a designer, because in the whole world, this is never a popular brand and no one really knew about this. But within my little community in San Dimas, Laverne, Glendora, Covina, surrounding areas, people kind of knew about it. People would wear it. I saw people at parties with it. I would sell it at school. I mean, I even did these super kind of cringeworthy now photo shoots, right? Like something like this. One of my teachers, a history teacher, shout out Mr. Beck, wearing the shirt in class. And that was a really cool moment. And I think even though the designs are bad, you need those small wins as a designer to keep you going and keep you wanting to actually create stuff. That's kind of it for 2014, honestly. I didn't do much like actual creation, or I couldn't find anything on my computer because it was so long ago. So let's move on to 2015. This is the type of shit I was doing in 2015. Awful. So I really want to show that, and not even to say that I'm like this super talented designer now, right? But I've definitely gotten better, and everyone starts somewhere. This I think was just a sticker or something I made for a Twitter header, I think, or even maybe for Xbox or something. Because Permanent Glue, which is my name on Instagram, originally started as just my gamer tag on Xbox 360. I think this is the first thing I ever created in Illustrator. I don't know, some little mushroom drawing that I did in my notebook, and I tried to translate it into Adobe Illustrator just to learn how the pen tool worked. You could see the lines are like a little wobbly, and I didn't really know how to do perspective or anything really. Like this, something feels very weird and off about this, but I don't even know how to draw now very well, so I don't know what I was thinking then. Some other early stuff, just tracing of MF Doom masks, trying to mess around with ink and more like, that might be the early days of me messing with like texture and mixed media for lack of a better word. A little tribute to Kobe Bryant. I mean, this is pretty cool. I think what I did was just use the pen tool to trace a picture of Kobe. I even got the little armband there and then added a crown, used his logo. I learned how drop shadows and stuff worked. This is all right. I mean, you could tell I'm kind of trying to figure out the basics of typography and layout. Or this is my last year of high school, so I definitely don't have much design work to show, and definitely not anything good. So let's move on to 2016. Even then, I was creating designs for Saul Bass. Looking at this now, absolutely awful. Does not encompass Saul Bass's style in any way, shape, or form, other than maybe having that projector there, which gives a hint onto that he created things for movies. But in college, we had an assignment where we had to create a layout magazine spread for a legendary designer, and they gave us all one at random. I'm using the Bodoni font here, I'm pretty sure, which doesn't really make sense. The tracking is way too spread out. This is weird how this shape goes. It kind of like takes your attention. It starts to lead you towards the other page, but then this kind of points you off. This isn't lined up, which really bugs me. And the glasses in there, I guess that's because he wore glasses. Whenever you have a big space in a paragraph like that, it doesn't look good. Or if you have one word below or one word on top, it just feels weird. I do like the drop cap, but using this boring sans serif like this makes it a little weird. This was a album art I made. It was like called 777. It was for like a local producer. I like the idea, right? The slot machine, stuff like that. But I obviously didn't really know how to illustrate well, and everything's kind of choppy and it's kind of boring. I think nowadays it'd be cool to do this with an actual slot machine, like a vintage looking one, and have it way more cropped in and do something very Vegas-esque. A logo I made for one of my girl's parents' friend or cousin or something. It was like some yoga company or something. I kind of like this weird shape thing, but overall, not very good. This idea is kind of cool. I don't know why I have the edge so close right here and there's so much space up here. I guess because it's like riding along, but I used the word bike to create the shape of this whole thing. I think if I did something like this now, I could execute it a lot better. Let's move on to 2017. Here is when I started to get a little bit more into a style that I like and a little more proud of some of the work that I was doing. I learned how to mess with textures in Photoshop. I learned how to manipulate typography and distress it a little bit. This is kind of a cool composition. It reminds me of like a very minimalist, like tropical house, like album cover or something. This is also just me messing around in Illustrator, trying to create something more abstract and mess with shapes. Definitely not a type of style I would work in now, but not bad. I feel like this definitely isn't a painting. I probably just threw a canvas texture on it or something. So that's kind of corny. Here is a poster I made completely in InDesign, which was actually kind of tricky, but my professor made us work just with an InDesign in a intro to typography class and using only a few fonts and only the things built into InDesign. So like creating spacing, creating paragraph shapes, rules. I quite actually like this one. I think for the skills I had at the time in typography, it was cool to try to create a design completely with just type and color and layout and try to make it dynamic and exciting. This class really did teach me like some of the basics about typography and got me kind of into working with letter forms, and being kind of my favorite style to work in now is mainly typographic and image driven. Here was an early album art that I did for another, I think a rapper or someone who made beats. I don't remember now, but this is definitely on that like third eye type shit that people were on when they just, smoked weed or did acid once or something. And, we have like the chakra symbols and stuff. I'm kind of learning a little bit more how to use Photoshop and blend textures and composite this eyeball into this moon. I was doing client work even when it wasn't good. And sorry to all those clients out there who have terrible design work from me early on. But you got to learn somewhere. You got to put in the repetitions. The more stuff you do, the sooner you can get to that 1,000 hours mark and actually start creating good work. So let's move on to 2018. This is a logo and mini brand system I did for a company in college. We had a course where we got paired up with a designer from this class. Each got paired up with a business student from their class, and they had an idea for a business. This was to a business that created something with wind. What's it called? Not wind energy. Is that what it's called? Solar, or the windmills, something like that. I don't even remember now. So I was trying to create something dynamic with this wind and movement. These shadows are really weird, and this logo mark is way too big to fit with this typography, but the logo type's all right. It's not anything like too cool, but I'm definitely trying to learn how to mess with letters, create equal spacing. I kind of like this line that has this baseline here, and then here's just some simple mock-ups that everyone used at the time. Bus stop, stationary. It's funny doing brand identities when you're not really experienced or have much to show for it, because you just always create the mock-up of the stationary and it makes it feel legit, even though it's complete bullshit. This is the cringe liquify era, I call it, that I went through, where I started just using the liquify tool to move around images and stuff and create these simple posters. I don't know what I was thinking or why I thought this was so cool. Maybe it was just I'm a victim of the time that I was creating in like 2018, but I was messing around with shapes, using the liquify tool a lot in Photoshop. This is probably the best version of that era because at least with this negative kind of version with the squares, it creates a little bit more dynamic movement and it's more interesting. And if you were designing in this time, you know too, people really love the very wide and thick sans serifs, so that felt very reminiscent of that time. And I also started creating simple posters like this, and this is probably the small seed of something that I would create now, right? I would do this a lot differently now, but the basis is there. Bold typography, some other small body copy, some texture, some images, editing it, some simple shapes, something that I would definitely do now in a different way. So I think this is when I'm starting to kind of develop my style for personal work, maybe not for clients or official logos or branding or anything, but definitely for like just poster design stuff. So 2019, kind of like what I was saying about the growth thing. This is one of the first things I put on Instagram as personal work that did fairly well. And I kind of still like it. The type should be a lot better, but I obviously learned how the threshold tool works and messing with blending modes and stuff like that. And it's whatever, but this is something, you know, I put on Instagram in the era where all the posters were on a black background, very angsty like this, simple techniques, but something somewhat shareable. That gives me a lot of confidence, right? When you're creating personal work on your laptop, I believe I made this in like a coffee bean on my laptop one day in the summer. I would just leave my house and go work on stuff on my laptop all day at different coffee shops. When you start to create stuff like this and you post online, it gives you that confidence to keep doing it and pushes you to create more and more personal work. Here's another personal project I made. I started getting into more collage stuff, heavily inspired by one of my favorite designers, Dewey Saunders. He was doing a lot of collage stuff like this at the time that incorporated sky and fruit and stuff, and I wanted to mess with something with skaters, and I like this. This was probably one of my favorite things I made at the time. I obviously learned about Blue Note and got more into jazz and got more into album covers and typography, and this is really probably one of the first things that feels like something I would make now. It would be a lot more polished and it would be set up a lot differently, and I wouldn't use these corny textures or this sticker that just says jazz. But I like the left column type. I like this picture of Thelonious Monk. The colors, everything feels very good. This was a good starting point for a lot of the type of design work I like to do now. So let's move on to 2020. I worked on this thing called Art of Sport. I worked for this actual company called Art of Sport, which was co-founded by Kobe, and we worked on body care stuff for athletes. So body spray, shampoo. And this was my first official job where I was working as an actual brand designer and doing art direction and doing photo shoots. Like we hired people, I had to hire photographers. I worked on gift boxes that we would put in Target. I worked on advertisements for out of home, setting up the whole system for like the different scents, right? Creating these boxes to send to influencers, coming up with new concepts for the women's line, and actually working with 3D render people, freelancers, and hiring them. I was also creating, these are real billboards, right, that I got to create. And this was like a really cool moment. And it's a simple design, and we had a lot of rules that we had to work within. But this taught me a lot about designing stuff for the real world. These were all ads that would run like in Target and stuff, or in coupon books, or we'd run these on social media, more photo shoot stuff and art direction that we would work on. And I got to go on to set and work with athletes and stuff. And that was really cool. And then create social media graphics, more graphics for email, out of home, some tributes to Kobe, some little animations for social or for the website. This taught me a lot about working within a brand identity and working within the same style and trying to create a bunch of different stuff for it on a day-to-day basis. And that was one of my more intensive projects, and I was an employee there, so it's a little bit different, but definitely what took up most of my time that year. Here's a poster that I also made in 2020, probably my favorite poster from that year. This was for a rave that one of my good friends threw over in the Mojave Desert, and I wanted to create a cool poster for it, and it was mainly just for me and my friends to enjoy. But I started to get a lot more comfortable with layout, color, typography, doing stuff with fonts, and creating some more composite stuff like this. So that was fun. 2021, Black Note. First most successful series on Instagram and something that I had a lot of fun working on and sharing over the months. I worked on a project where I designed a punk album cover, redesigned in the style of Blue Note, and tried to blend, the essence and the feeling of the punk albums, but keep them in this Blue Note layout with edited typography, the colorful images like this. And I even created this little lockup, finest punk since 1939, Black Note, and we used Frizz Quadrata, the Black Flag font. I really like this London Calling one. The Black Flag Damage is one of my favorites as well, but I got a lot of good response from this, and it was cool to create something design work wise, but also show a love and passion for something like punk music that I like. I spelled Gorilla Biscuits wrong there. I left it because it is what it is. This is something that is a lot different from what I normally do. I was working on logos and branding, but I didn't do a lot of stuff like this. I've never really done illustration like this or drawing, so it was a really big challenge to draw this little character and figure out how that worked. But I created a whole system around it. We have some graphics for social media, some mock-ups for merch, and a t-shirt. Shout out to Duran for all the best t-shirt mock-ups. I was really happy with this loyalty card. I thought it was cool where you could stamp the thumbs up and it's the same hand from the character. Some sandwich wraps, things like that. Some social media stuff, out of home. And that was probably one of my early on first full brand identities that I worked on as a freelancer, which gave me a lot of confidence and was just a fun project. All right, 2022. Blues Legends, probably my favorite series after the Black Note one. Helped me find my style a lot with poster design and layout, and like the Black Note series, allowed me to take my love for blues music and pour it into this big thing. And I think the best thing about a series, it takes away the decision fatigue of what you want to create, and you can focus on how you want to make it and focus on the actual thing. It's kind of hard to create personal work for when you can just create anything. When you have restrictions of it needs to be a blues artist, I want it to be heavily typographic driven with edited imagery. You have those constraints, and then you can work more within those and experiment and create cool stuff. But I was really happy with this Buddy Guy poster. The Lightning Hopkins one was cool too. And you can see I developed the kind of look and aesthetic for the series over time. But I got better and better, and I started working more with printing and texturizing instead of using digital stuff, experimenting with color, trying different techniques. I wanted them all to feel like a system, but also be unique. Well, definitely one of my favorites, this Howling Wolf one. I really like the Slim Harpo one. I think it was the last one I made over here at the end. Shuggy Otis one was really fun to work on. Here it is. This is one of my favorites, the Slim Harpo one. Started working with cutting out images, working with gradients. I got my typography a lot more dialed in and started messing with the fonts that I like and the close tracking, and really helped me develop my style, and it actually got me some official poster design projects. In addition to that series, I also made this Skatin' Not Stirred series, because this is 2022, so this is near the end of kind of the COVID stuff, so I was doing a lot of personal work at home. And I love this series because it got me back to doing collage stuff and working with my hands, and it was very good in the time of isolation and working remotely to do something physical, not just digital. I got all these different skaters from Thrasher magazines, and I found this Bartender's Guide to Making Cocktails, some vintage book, and I wanted to pair a different skater with each drink. And it was just a fun series to post on Instagram and a lot different from what I normally do. Some notable mentions or posters from the time. I really like this Cragbin one. This is just concept work, not official for the band. But this, I feel like, was starting to get more into the style that I like to work in nowadays as well. This Burnout one taught me a lot about texturizing and working with, I printed this with a laser printer on colored paper, and that sent me down a whole rabbit hole of printing all my work with the laser printer on different colored papers and, using a filing nail filer to texturize it or using an X-Acto knife to cut things out and mess around, and try to get my work to feel a lot more haptic and tangible, like some of the vintage stuff you see. This was a cool project too, similar thing, cutting out the different colored papers, but this was a collab with a talented designer, Burr's Letters. She did the cool typography, and then I messed with the images and did the texturizing and colorization and cutting stuff out. 2023, grapes. Sorry for some of these. I just have the mini part of the presentation and then we go over to the website, but it's a lot more simple that way to show you. Grapes, this is some social media graphics that I did for a wine delivery app. And what was really cool about this company is they let me do a bunch of creative stuff. They let me do typography and collage. They let me do fun posters. And all this was, little animations for social media, promo ads, just stuff that they could post that was visually pleasing, as well as kind of help build out their style and aesthetic for the brand. And I think they're doing kind of different stuff now, but it was a good opportunity and it was fun to work within a bigger brand again, like the stuff I was doing with Art of Sport. Here's some vertical ads for social media. When I was printing a lot of stuff on sticky notes, I was doing that at the time, so that was fun. Some halftone stuff. And overall, they let me get really creative, so it's always good when a client lets you kind of flex those muscles. This is my favorite poster I made in 2023. It was just a good mix of everything I like. Printed textures, good small typography and body copy, collage, layout, manipulating typography, color. I just think this is one of the cooler things that I've made. Even to now, it's one of my favorite things. So I'm proud of this one. I think it's really cool and creative and the style that I like to encompass now still. In 2023, I also made all these playlist covers for the different playlists on Spotify. So this is like all the Mexican music that I have, some more electronic techno stuff, hardcore and punk, and then more shoegazy, ambient, indie stuff. And I wanted them all to encompass the style of music that are in that playlist. All right, 2024, Hardcore Alphabet. By far my best series to this date and the most fun and I had with personal work and helped grow my style the best, especially for album art, as well as helped me get a lot of great connections. I met a lot of cool people through this and met a lot of people in hardcore, vocalists, other designers, people who work at labels. And it was just like with the blues thing, like with the punk thing, and now with this hardcore series, it's so important, I think, as a designer and especially as a younger designer to find something you're passionate about. And even if you're not getting hired for that stuff yet, or when you're on some downtime, make stuff just for fun for it. It makes your skills better and it shows people the type of work that you want to be doing. I won't dive into that too much because I made an entire video covering this project. I'll link that below if you want to check it out more. But it was cool to see all these done. And I did one of these every week for each letter of the alphabet. And some of my favorites, I really like this backtrack one. This drain one was fun and they actually hit me up. The end it one, one of my favorites, messing with transparent textures. Probably one of the most popular ones on social media was this Have Heart one. I got a nice image from stills, did some texturizing and editing, and just a good, nice type lockup on the left. Collab with Jake Pressure. This New Lords one I was a big fan of too. Probably my favorite poster from that year. That was personal work. I really liked this ITC machine font. The orange came out really fire. I actually have a printed version that I hung up at my house. And that's kind of a testament to how much I like this one. I don't normally hang up my own work. This Dog Eat Dog World too, also using the same ITC machine font. I really like the brown and the colors on this one. And I haven't made a lot of personal work the last couple years, but these are some couple ones that I was really proud of. All right, 2025, we are here. Let's start out with Two Sleepy People, my favorite project I've worked on this year, which was a client project for a talented creator and friend of mine, Baron Ryan. I work with these creator camp people. I've been to a lot of their events and stuff, and now they're doing a film festival, which they did, and it was really fun. And I got to work with Baron, and the DP was another friend of mine, Ethan Uncurated, to work on his movie. So we got to do this kind of old Hollywood style, like minimal. I really liked how Baron wanted to do something more avant-garde and not just the floating heads, like giant thing that everyone in Hollywood is doing. The original type here was printed with an inkjet on transparent paper. That's how we kind of got this bleed effect. and I want to do something more creative with the billing block instead of just having it all here at the bottom. Here was just a mock-up for the poster. In addition to the poster, we also made some merch. This was the back, and we had the sponsors for the film fest here, and this was the front of it. And what was really cool about making this merch design is I got to see people at the festival in real life wearing it. And it was like that meme in the corner when you're standing there, like they don't know that I designed that. But it was cool, and it sold out. Everyone bought the merch, so I was proud to make something that people liked enough for it to sell out. And it was cool to see the poster hung up in the theaters and stuff as well. All right, last couple things since we're still in 2025. This is probably my favorite personal project and poster I made. I did a collage blend with some images and scans that I got of a motherboard, as well as this beautiful image from stills. And then just messing with some typography. I've been kind of on a Euro style kick again and using stuff like that. And I really have been liking this small body copy that feels like typewriter-esque or mono-space type stuff. And it is not made with AI. I'm not a big fan of using AI to completely create stuff and generate work and not being transparent about it, especially. So just wanted to kind of make a little message to that when I posted it on Instagram. And I mean, obviously it got a good response by most graphic designers saying that you don't like AI isn't really controversial. So it is what it is. This is something I made recently that I posted on IG, or maybe I haven't yet, but so Shed by Title Fight is one of my favorite albums of all time, but I don't think they have a cassette version. So I wanted to make my own kind of like bootleg cassette version. And I really liked how the thing wrapped around the cassette thing. So you have the main graphic right here, right? And it wraps around the back and you have the different songs. And I did some handwritten type. Still have it right here. I use this whiteboard to write out the little Title Fight type. I'm trying to get better at doing some hand-drawn stuff and things like that. It's not the greatest, but I liked how it turned out overall. So that's the last thing for 2025. And that's pretty much the work I wanted to share with you. Obviously, I've done a lot more stuff over the years, and those were just some highlights from over each year, picked and choose to make the video somewhat more digestible. Still ended up being pretty long, but I hope you learned something, and I hope you saw how over time you can get better and learn and really fall in love with a style within graphic design and go with that. It's okay to try a bunch of different stuff in the beginning and even now, because doing that, you'll start to figure out the types of styles and ways you do like to work. So yeah, keep on making stuff. I hope you enjoyed this video. And if you did, hit the like button and subscribe if you want to see more stuff in the future. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.